I usually speak about church. We come to church and speak about church. Actually, I'm in a series about church. What is church? And we've been discovering so many things, and we went deep into the Word. But I was advised today to have a break, and because we have this special occasion about children. So we have our children today in our attention, and especially Matilda, because of her dedication. I thought I would bring something about parenting. So parenting, what is parenting, or what is to grow or to help children to grow in God's way, God's way. But while I was preparing, I found something interesting. I found something amazing, actually, that parenting or growing children or helping them to grow in God's way, it's so tied, it's so there with the church, actually. It's a essential part of a church, growing church. And when I was thinking, how it is with these children, suddenly I remembered that I have 6 children, and how it is to have 6 children. Well, it's quite complicated. I will not give this morning. I'll not complain. I'll not give any other, experiences. I'll not share experiences about my children. But I thought, how difficult it is. Not that difficulty of, physically speaking only. But it's a difficult because you have to be focused on whole their, person, all their areas in life, you see. Sometimes I meet my ex-university colleagues. And, when you meet someone and you haven't seen him for a long, long time, usually we ask, how is our life? And sometimes some of them ask me about where I am in terms of, advancing in my, career, or if I went up, upgraded my studies. And I've heard some of them, they went to master, PhDs, and I felt a bit interesting. So I decided to give an answer to them. So the last time when I was asked, I gave the answer, well, I'm right now in the middle of writing 6 PhD theses. And of course, they understood that's not physically possible. But they were amazed, and they were curious to know what I meant by that. And I said, well, every time I wanted to go further with my studies, I was interrupted. I had a child. So when we had Robert, so I was so close to it, and I said, well, I'm going to study further. So then Robert appeared. So I found that it's so difficult with Robert. 4 years. And I eagerly waited, and then after 4 years, Philip, and then George, and George changed completely our life. But you see, all the time when we think about children, we think about them not as something we have for a period of time only. You see, though they leave the house, at some point they will go in life, but they are in your heart, and you're thinking about them. And I think you would agree with me. Those who have your children that been left the houses, they are having their own families. So it's something there that we go and think. We not only think, we feel with them in each moment of their life. And it's not a thesis which you put on a shelf there. So you had a certain amount of time involved there, and then you put it on a shelf and you leave it there. No, children are something special to us. Let me bring you a passage from Scripture this morning, Proverbs, and I think you've heard many times sermons on Proverbs 22, and just one verse, 6. It's a special one, and I chose it because it's really, really important for us today, and I'll tell you why. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Let me read it again and follow with me. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Nowadays, we have a lot of books on parenting. So if you struggle with something, you go quick and find a book. Let's see what others would say. And many of them are written out of the experience and much more. And others are written with no experience. That's sad, but that's true. So many books on this topic. And actually, writing and having such a lot of books on this topic shows that there is a great need, especially today, about knowing how to help or to raise children in God's way. It's so important to know how to approach them. I've heard about a movie, and there was a specific scene there, when a single mother, raising up a few children, and then she had actually a teenager. And teenager is that period in life when you are scared of as a parent. So we got there now. And when you have a teenager, you think about it, well, how it will be. And many times you have that, arguments and fighting in the house. And there was a great fight in that house. And that mom, she was, trying to somehow to help her daughter, but she couldn't. She bursted in tears, and then when she was crying there, her daughter suddenly understood how much her mother loves her, and she embraced her, hugged her, kissed her, and they were, in tears. And then her mother came with this, some words. She came with a phrase. Well, I don't know what to do with you. If you could come with, you came in this world with no instructions. No instructions for you, you see. But I think it's not true. We do have instructions. Actually, we do have instructions for our children. If we think logically, we have our children, and when we have our children, we don't say that we created them. We gave birth. We've been there in the process, but they are given to us, and they have a creator. You have someone who designed everything about them, and not only about them, about the parents, about the family. And when we think about our creator, we think about someone far, far beyond our understanding and far beyond our capacities to understand, actually, this life. Sometimes we believe that we are in control with many things, but we are not. Many times we discover that we are not in control. And with children, many times we experience that something may happen and we cannot control that thing. And you see, when we have someone as our creator, a God, an engineer, who engineered not only their biological life, but everything about them, we must rely on him in raising them as well. There is the manual, and the manual is here in Proverbs 22, verse 6. Well, it's very interesting how the Bible can put in one single phrase something which many books can describe it very well. It's only one single phrase here which will contain all or a lot of what means to be a parent. So, train up a child in the way he should go. Let us take it word by word and think about this as a word, each word meaning a chapter. This train up, another way, it's an imperative. You see, it's an imperative. It's not something like, it's a suggestion. You may do that if you want. If there is time, if you have time, if you have time. No, it's an imperative. To be engaged with your child, that's an imperative thing. Because, the regret people have later in life is not that they spent less time at their job. The regret they have later in life that they spent so little with their children. So we have, and that's an imperative, that's our responsibility to be involved in their life. But how to train them up? You see, this is not an education. It's not something which it's targeting only their brain development. Although we are so concerned about that, when we choose schools, when we choose, anything which will provide for our children education, we are so concerned that they will receive a good education. Especially in this country, we want them to profit and then to have everything they could have, the best in this world. But it's not actually only something only for their brain. It's a challenge. It's something to challenge their thinking as well and model their willing. You see? Because at the end of the day, if they would have all the knowledge, but they will not be able to make wise decisions in life, they may end up really bad. And all the knowledge will not be helpful to you in that moment. So that's why we are concerned about them all, being them all. Mind, soul, heart, everything. It's not actually, let me put it in this way. What is our first reaction when we see them doing wrong things? Well, we want to correct them, yes? And our tendency is always to correct them on externals or on external behavior, actions. Don't do that. You're not allowed to do that. I remember about 15 years ago, we had in our house for a while a friend of mine from London. We were back in Moldova, and he didn't understand Romanian. We are Romanian speakers, so we were always, trying to help Robert with his difficulties. We were always being on him, and we always would say something to him. And my friend, when we were at the table on dinner time, he just asked me out of curiosity, who is this Nuivoie? He might be probably a hero or something. You mention him a lot, Nuivoie. That's a Romanian word, Nuivoie. But actually, Nuivoie means you're not allowed. And he understood that he's a person, it's someone, a friend of ours. We mention him so much. Nuivoie. You're not allowed to do that. So that's our first reaction, you see, with children. Because we want them to behave, well, to be there, not to bring shame on us. So whenever I will go outside, them to be nice, well, on the outside. But actually, the issue is not with the outside. Because our mouth, we speak out of our thinking and what lays in our hearts. And that's the root of the problem. So we need to go down, to go there inside of the problem. And that's why we are concerned about their hearts more than their minds thinking. Because their mind, their thinking is modeled according to what they want, according to what they direct. You see, the heart is like a wheel directing their life. You see, they can direct their life. So we are there for them in this period of life to help each step to trace a line, a straight line in their life. So what do we need to teach them? What do we need to teach them? We know how to train. We need to be very, careful with not bringing only the outsides, but also thinking about their hearts, especially thinking about their hearts. So what do we need to teach them? In general, as a general answer to this is Simple. We need to teach them the Holy Scriptures. As 2 Timothy 3:15, Paul says about Timothy, you've been taught the Holy Scriptures. Why? Because Holy Scriptures are able to make you or them wise for salvation through faith in Christ. You see, the Holy Scripture is able to shape your understanding, to shape your perspective, your worldview of what happens. Everything is surrounding you. So in general way, Holy Scriptures, but in particular, there are lots of things they need to understand. But I chose only one here, and I brought it because it's fundamental for everything or anything else from now on. They need to build their understanding upon something very important. Ephesians 6, 1-3. Children. And there is a special word for children. Children, and this is my favorite one actually. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. Now, the second part, it's very important for us as parents to understand. What means to obey? I don't ask them to obey me because I need it. I don't ask them to obey and follow me because I need to be seen as someone, as a good parent. No, that's not the right motivation. They need to follow me. They need to obey me because of their benefit or their protection. And I think here is the point. Obey and honor your parents. That means to teach them to respect the authority. The authority. Respecting the authority is something we lost so much today. Respecting the authorities. And when they know how to respect the authority, when they know how to submit themselves to the authorities, they actually set their steps on the right direction. And they are in that environment where they are safe. Well, we don't speak here about tyranny, We don't speak here about obeying without, reasoning or thinking about what you know. It's not about that. You should keep quiet and follow me. No, they need to understand. That's why we take time. We take time. So before we bring a discipline, we need to spend time. And because we as parents, we believe that we are so busy, we do shortcuts. But shortcuts are not helping them. And unfortunately, we experience that many times. But we know that when we spend time with them and helping them each step and placing them under authority, it's for their benefit. How do we do that? Fathers, verse 4, explains. Fathers, do not exasperate your children, or do not provoke to anger. In other translation. Well, what means to exasperate or to provoke to anger? When we give them the wrong discipline. When we give them the wrong discipline, then they are getting angry. Something goes wrong. When we discipline them out of anger, out of selfishness, because you spoiled my quietness, my quiet time. You did something and you disturbed me. No, we think about them first. When we discipline them in this way. Also, when we are inconsistent. Well, when we are inconsistent, what that means. So, if today I'm setting one principle or a rule, house rule, and tomorrow I'm changing it, and then after tomorrow I'm coming with something else, then they don't know what to follow. And they are getting frustrated, and they don't know what to do, so they are getting angry. You see, we need to be very careful with that. Second chapter, train up. Train up whom? A child. A child. Now, we need to understand that we are training up children, not adults. Sometimes we want them to behave like adults. They want them to respond or to behave like adults, but they are not. And sometimes their efforts and their results are so small, but that's only they can do. It's only they could bring up. They are children. So we discipline them, and we help them, and we train them, and we love them for everything. And then we think about them that they are children. They are in progress. Let me tell you a secret. Not them, not only them are in progress. We are in progress too. So sometimes we are setting some standards for them. If we would apply those standards to us at our level, I'm afraid we will fail as well. So thinking about that. But also, I was thinking about why the author here wrote, train up a child, not children, a child. Maybe because it's a generic way to say it, a child, you see. But I was thinking, why at singular, not plural here? Well, I think because we need to think of them individually for each of them, according to their needs. We need to give them the required attention. Sometimes I'm taking, aside, taking only one of them out of those 6. I'll spend time only with Robert, only with Philip, only with Victoria. Why? Because their needs seem to be different. Well, it's easier for us, no? Like in a class. We gather them, we give them a lesson, and you pick up whatever is applying to you, and then we go, oh, no, they need your attention specific for their specific needs. And then, in the way he should go. Train up a child in the way he should go. There are many ways. Which one? Many ways. Maybe they hear at school, this way, that way, and maybe there is a trend today to listen and follow this, well-known speaker, psychologist, and this way is the better, that way is the better. Which way? Which way to take? Which one is the best? Which one is appropriate? And it's so hard to rely today even on science. Well, sometimes under this authority, science, we can slip or bring them all kinds of weird things. And unfortunately, we can see these things. But what is that way? What is that way? Well, naturally, children, they are set up on one way. And that way is obviously not the God's way. And we know from the Bible that we've been born in sin. What that means? So, naturally speaking, our hearts desire something else. That's why they don't want to listen sometimes, or many times. That's why many times we would be surprised by their reaction. I was surprised, and for with each of them, I was surprised how men can be at one point. Even Paul, our little boy, little lovely boy. Sometimes we look at him and we enjoy spending time with him. But when I ask him to give me a kiss, embrace, a hug, he'll come and he will give me a slap. Why? It comes naturally. Sometimes you would bring your child to Little Lambs and you'll see how they play together. And they've never seen before. But they would grab a toy from someone else. That's mine. That's mine. It's a selfishness. It's something natural coming from our hearts. That's the way. That's why we need to train them. Because there is only one and the single and the only one way they need to go. And that's God's way. Which one is it? John 14:6. Well, we know this well-known passage. Jesus said, I am the way. I'm not one of the ways. I am the way. The way. I am that way. It's only one. So there are no alternatives in the Bible. You follow either His way or your way. Naturally, in our hearts, we know where it can lead, where it can go. But we know that deep down in our hearts, we need that change. We need that switch. We need to recalibrate our heart to go, to walk on that way. And then even when he's old, and here is, many would say this is a promise, but that's not a promise. These are proverbs, not promises. But here is something we can find hope. Even when he's old, he will not depart from it. Now, I think here we can speak about patterns. There are some patterns. I'm not sure it happened with you, but there are things which we like with our parents, and some things we we don't want too much to bring them up. Some things we didn't like with our parents. So not once we heard things like, I never liked that about my father. And now I find myself doing this. You know why? Because indirectly you've been influenced and you are doing that thing. There was a pattern you followed, you see. That's why when we speak about parenting or children, not mostly the children have to be in our attention, but ourselves. We need to be trained before them. We need to understand that this is something which has to do with us first, then with them. Because they are following patterns. And if they are given now those right patterns in life, they will, at one point, you'll allow God to work in a special way. Well, God is almighty. We know God is doing out of nothing. He can bring people from the most deepest pit and bring him up, giving a new life. He's amazing. But he gave us, he entrusted us to train them in good patterns that at the appointed time, they can rely on something, then can go back and remember. And from there, they can be picked up and they can know God. They can be changed in life. Well, this is shortly about parenting in God's way. Maybe you think, well, I'm not a parent here. Some of you are not a parent here. You're not a parent, you don't know. But let me tell you something. In part, I think all these teachings apply to everyone. Because all of us in life has someone with whom we are in a relationship and we can influence them. Here is the influence. And let's find out the right path in him. God bless you. And make this word be a living word in our hearts. Amen.